Hey everyone, welcome to another Dr. Sev Talks Money YouTube and podcast. And for those watching the replay, thank you for watching and for listening. On today's episode, we are discussing 4 financial pitfalls and sharing strategies to manage them. Because, friends, it is important that we identify those subconscious choices that may lead to derailment of our financial goals. And once we've identified them, for us to find strategies that can help us overcome those hurdles. Now, these are a bit different and they really require deeper exploration than I'm sharing in this short session. And that is due to the psychological and emotional aspects around the why behind our choices. We're not going to talk about the why today because it requires, again, deep exploration. But what we're going to talk about is the how and the what. So, first, we want to start with friendships. Friendships is one thing that can derail our finances. And you might say, how does friendship derail my finances? Well, let's talk through a few scenarios. Think about the peer pressure that comes with belonging to a certain group. Let's say, for example, all of the individuals or the couples in your circle are buying new cars. So what do? You buy a new car. And you probably don't even think about the financial ramifications of your action. You just want to fit in with your friends. Or maybe the group of friends you hang out with go on yearly vacations and you are struggling to pay your bills, but you still want to go on the annual vacation trip. Your focus is on your friendship. You've put staying friends with your group or belonging ahead of your financial well-being. We can't unpack again the why you make the why behind that choice here. But there are some things that we can do to mitigate that kind of scenario. There are things that we can do to think ahead of, if this were to happen, what would I do? So we don't get into that emotional quagmire. So here's another scenario. You and your girlfriends always go to the after Thanksgiving sale or some other sale. And for some reason, you don't have enough money like you usually do, but you don't want to be left out. So if this is you in any of those scenarios or similar scenarios, let's talk about some things that we can put in place to set boundaries. First, you want to know your financial limitations. What are your limitations? Not what your friends are doing. And I know it's hard, but you need to know what you will and will not do in certain situations. If my friends decide they are going to buy the newest, I'm not into purse, but what, Kate Spade purse, I'm going to say, listen, guys, I'm going to celebrate with you, but I'm going to stay out of this one. Again, it's hard because we have friendships and we want to belong. We want to do the same thing. We want to make the same decisions. We want to have the same choices. But you have to think, how is this going to impact my finances? Is this going to cause me to not send my child to private school because I'm going on that vacation that's going to eat up all my money? What if I were to lose my job? If I blow my emergency savings to fit in with my friends, how is that going to help me? How is that going to set me back? So again, set boundaries before things happen. And that's key. Before things happen, set the boundaries. Know your financial limitations. Know what you will and will not do. Strategize ahead of time. So when these things happen, we don't get pulled into making emotional decisions that really don't serve us. And don't be afraid to say, I can't go this year, or to say, I will go hang out with you guys, but I'm only window shopping. And ask one person in the group, can you be my accountability partner to make sure I don't spend money? It's okay to be vulnerable if they're your friends. It's okay to be vulnerable with them and get one person who you know will hold your feet to the fire so that you don't make choices that derail your finances. And really, I just want you to be aware of the subconscious choices that we make around our friendships that may derail our financial goals. I remember the company I used to work before this one, they would always say, Severin, do you want to go out to lunch? And I would say no all the time. And well, most of the time. And eventually they stop asking and they say, don't ask Severin, she's not going to go. Well, I had a plan. I knew I was only going to go out to eat maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. That was my plan. I had already decided ahead of time that's what I was going to do. And I didn't allow what they said about me, because I know they talk about me. I didn't allow what they said about me to stop me from continuing my plan, because here's the thing. If they are your friends, they won't kick you out of the circle if you can't do the things that they are doing. And again, this is hard. But if they do kick you out, or if they do ice you out, as my friend, as my daughter would say, or block you from your friendship, or not as welcoming as they used to be, then they were not your friends. They were about what you did together and not about true friendships. Find some friends who won't mind if you say no to whatever group activity they're doing. And again, these are not easy decisions, but I just want you to be aware of the choices we may make because of our friendships and the patterns we create because of it. And these are patterns that may not serve us. So before I jump to the next one, let me check the comments to see if there's anything. Catherine is saying it helps me to call a budget a spending plan. Yes, because psychologically, right? It for some reason the word budget is a four-letter word in most people's minds. But if we call it another name, a thing of another name, as long as we're still doing what we're supposed to do, that's perfectly fine. Whatever it is that we can use, whether it's a change in the way we think about things, change in a pattern, whatever we can use to let us do the thing we need to do, but look at it differently, but it will get us to the goal, then I say go for it. And Beverly's saying, yes, I agree. You can't do as someone else if you can't afford it. But you'll be surprised, and I'm going to share some stats later. You'll be surprised how many of us just do the thing because our friends are doing it. And I'm not beating up anybody here, because the thing is, a lot of them are subconscious choices. We just do it because our friends are doing it, and we don't think about ramifications behind our actions. So let's look at the second one, which is habits. Yes, habits are things that can derail our finances. So let's talk about some of the things that that are habits that could derail our finances. I walked into Publix a few days ago, and this is where the start of this YouTube session is kept coming from, because I did something that I thought, how many of us are doing that? So I walked into Publix, pick up a prescription, and after I paid, for some reason, I felt like I needed to do something else. I felt like I was missing something. Because when I go into the grocery store, I always have a list of things, and I always come out with a list of things, right? And so I felt like something was missing, because all I got was a prescription, and it was only $2 and some cents. So I walked over to the hot food section. No, I don't want anything there. I looked at my list that I keep on my phone. No, I'm not going to get any of those from Publix. Then I walked over to the cold section where the salads are. I'm like, no, I don't want that. And then I'm walking slowly towards the door, because I'm still thinking, what should I be getting in here? Because I'm conditioned. My habit is to go in the store and get several things. I did end up getting a carton of lactate chocolate milk because my daughter likes it. And it's not like it was an emergency, like I needed it. But out of habit, going shopping, I always leave with more than one items, and I felt like something was missing because all I had was a measly prescription. So how many of us fall into that boat? where we go into a grocery store or we go into any kind of store and we end up feeling like we need to get all the things, because if we don't get all the things, we haven't really gone shopping. And that's a habit. So how do we break that habit? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Here's another habit that I have to try really hard to break, and that's procrastination. It's another habit that could derail our financial goals. For example, my auto insurance expired July 6th, and it's been on my to-do list, but it's not something I enjoy doing. So I've been putting it off. And I was getting ready to shut my computer down on the night of July 6th. I think I worked till maybe 11:30 that night. And then I looked over my list and I'm like, I didn't do my insurance. I didn't renew it. But the reason I delayed is because I needed to research some additional places for auto and home insurance. Because when I started my home insurance, it went up $200 plus. My auto insurance went up $36 over 6 months because I pay my auto in 6-month blocks. And so I wanted to research and I didn't. I kept putting it off. And at 1:00 in the morning, I think it was, because it was past midnight of July 6th, which is when it expired. And I still paid, fingers crossed that it wouldn't lapse, because I was late. So if I had done what I needed to do, the due diligence, and done the research, I could have saved some dollars, because I have my auto and home with the same company, and I probably could have found somebody else to get auto and home at a lower rate. So we procrastinate about things that end up costing money. So maybe you need to meet with a financial counselor such as moi to talk about your budget, but this is not a sexy item. Or as Catherine said, to talk about your financial plan, right? So we procrastinate, and then we end up maybe losing our jobs, or something happens and we have no strategy in place. So because of that, we end up using credit cards to supplement our lifestyle, or worse, payday loans. Do not use payday loans. Borrow from a friend, borrow from a family member, borrow from a 401k if you need to. Okay, and this is not advice. This is just giving you some choices, right? But the worst thing you can do is do payday loans, because they are up to 8, 9, 1,000%. And you'll never be able to get out of there unless you get some, really great job other than what you had before that gets you out of that hole. So we procrastinate about putting our financial plans in place. And because we don't have a plan, we end up having to make decisions out of fear, out of, it becomes a, what word do I want to say? It becomes now a catastrophic event, because we haven't put the things in place that we need to. And another thing that I've shared on this channel before is unsubscribing from all sales emails. That's another habit that can get us into trouble, because when we see those emails, what do we say? I'm just looking to see if there's anything I need. And we know we don't really need anything, but if the sales email comes, we're scanning it to see, maybe there's something I need and I don't know that I need it. We don't tell ourselves those other, the last part of the sentence. We just say, maybe there's something I need. So we look, and it becomes a habit to look at that. And then we'll say, that chair would look nice in my living room. But we're not thinking about the whole financial picture. We're just seeing that chair that looks so nice, that seemed like it's on sale, to put in our living room when we don't really need it, and we end up buying it. And maybe that caused us to, we can't sign up our children for tennis lessons, or we can't sign them up for that math tutor that they need. So those are some of the habits that, because we do them, subconsciously, we don't realize how they can derail our finances. So one of the things I always tell people, unsubscribe, because it will help to curb impulse shopping. I have unsubscribed from all sales emails, And I have not had first of all, my email is uncluttered now. I still have a lot of emails I need to get rid of, but it's uncluttered. And I'm not tempted to go look at what I can buy when I really don't need anything. And in terms of talking about the shopping, going grocery shopping, another solution is to create a shopping list when you go to the grocery store. And I had a shopping list on my phone, but I didn't tell myself ahead of time, which is a good habit to have, is to say what I will not do when I walk in that grocery store. I'm going to walk past those dollar sale items. I'm not going to get anything that I don't need because I'm being strategic with my money today. I walk in there, get what I need, and walk out. I see too many posts on social media, and listen, I'm not telling you how to spend your money. That's not my job. That's not my business, okay? But I see too many posts on social media with people saying, I just walked into Target to pick up two things and I walked out with a cart full of things. I just walked into Walmart to pick up one item and I came out with a cart full of things. And if that is something that happens all the time, that's a bad habit. And we may want to think about ways that we can get rid of that habit. Another thing we can do to help with the habits that we have is, especially procrastination, is to get an accountability partner to help us stay on track. And Amazon Prime Week is coming up. So plan ahead. Tell yourself, do I really need anything from Amazon Prime, or am I going to buy because it's habitual to buy something just because it is Amazon Prime Week? Okay, so these are some of the things to think about, because again, we do these things without thinking, and we don't. When we end up at a place that we don't want to be financially, we don't maybe have the bandwidth to see how we got to where we got to. But it's good to be intentional. Does that mean you're going to win every time? No, I am good with money. I can tell you that. But that doesn't mean I win every time. But I win more than I lose with the decisions that I make about my money, because I am trying to be very intentional about how I spend my money, about how I manage the money that I have. Because in my family, we live into our 80s, 90s, and 100s. So if I'm going to live that long, I need to take care of my coins. So I don't know about you and how longevity is in your family, but you might want to do the same thing. You might want to take care of your coins to make sure that your money lasts. So before I jump on to number 3, let me see if there are anything in the comments. Sid is saying very interesting. And yeah, it becomes urgent. This is so key. I'm going to put this comment up. It becomes urgent, so we pay more. When it becomes urgent, then we pay more, and then we've derailed our finances. So let's jump to the third habit, or the third thing that can derail our finances, and that is expectations. And these are around societal expectations. What do people expect from you? And because they expect that, do you do the things that they expect? Are you making the decisions that they're expecting from you? So one of the things that I know about expectation is that our families, our friends, and society may think there are certain things you need to do because you're in a certain leadership role. I was in an organization when a member got a new house, and the leader said, now you need a new car to go with the new house. And he was serious. And this is the kind of thinking that can get us into big financial trouble. Just because you have a quote unquote nice job or have gotten that raise doesn't mean you should buy that big house that everyone thinks goes along with the new job title or that new car. And we call that lifestyle creep. The more you make, the more you increase your spending. So you seldom get ahead because you're always matching your expenses to your income. Maybe the raise at that new job will allow you to pay off debt and give you breathing room instead of jumping into more debt. And how many professionals, doctors, lawyers, highly paid executives are drowning in debt? And believe me, they are, because they believe what society says about how they should live due to their profession. I want to share a statistics with you. According to Lending Club, 49% of six-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck. That's nearly half of people who are making over $100,000 and more who are living paycheck to paycheck. So that tells me if they're living paycheck to paycheck, then they're not being able to save for their kids' college. They're probably not able to set aside money for their retirement. There's so many things that they are foregoing because they're living paycheck to paycheck. I was one of those who lived paycheck to paycheck. And thankfully, I was able to get out of that cycle, because living paycheck to paycheck just to satisfy societal expectations doesn't serve. Because guess what? They don't pay your bills. They are not paying your bills. So if they want you to have the new car and the big house, let them pay for it. Let them buy it. Okay. So I encourage you to do what I call a Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, every time he increases his income or his investments, he does not move from where he's living. He stays where he's living. He drives what he's driving. So I encourage you to not fall into the trap of increasing expenses with increasing professional advancement. Every time you get an advancement, think carefully about what you can do to set yourself up, because your job is not promised. Your profession is not promised. If you are a business owner who's making money hand over fist right now, God forbid you have a stroke, then you're not able to make that money. So have you set up some kind of safety net for yourself instead of living paycheck to paycheck and increasing your standard of living just because you've increased your income? So one of the things you can do is you can manage your financial goals and your expectations before that career choice kicks in. So let's say you're a lawyer and you're graduating. You want to go ahead and meet with a financial planner or a financial coach or a financial counselor, such as myself, and sit down and think about what the expectations are around your money. What are your expenses? What are the things that you're going to have to manage now? If you're going to open a private practice, there's going to be private insurance, insurance around your practice. There's going to be build expenses for your building. There's going to be a lot of things. Plus, you have to pay back the buku student loans. So think about, before you get into the financial, into the practice, think about the things that you can put in place to help provide guardrails, is what I would call them. They're rails to help you so that when the money starts to come in, you're not just doing what everybody else in your profession is doing. You're not doing what everybody else expects you to do, but you are making decisions around your money, your goals, and your the things that are required of you for in terms of what you've planned, right? So you're deciding before, if you're in a place where you're going to get maybe promotions and raises, decide what you're going to do with that promotion. What are you going to do with that bonus before you get it? Not because society said you get $30,000 bonuses every year, you need to go on a vacation. No, maybe you need to go on a vacation, or maybe you need to do a staycation because of the other requirements of you, because of the other commitments that you have. So it's not about what society expects, but what you're going to work in your parameter, within your financial goals, within your financial strategies, and your expectations of what it is you want to achieve to make the decision. So before we get to the fourth one, and before I check the comments, I really hope this information is helping someone to think about their choices. Because guess what? I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. I'm not here to tell you what choices to make. I'm not here to tell you whether your choices are right or wrong. I'm just here to prick your mind a little bit to share some information, to share some educational content so you can think about the choices that you make. Because I don't live with your choices, you do. I don't live with your decisions, you do. So I'm providing as much information as I can to help you think through your choices so that you can make the ones that will serve you the best way. So let's check the chat. And before I move on to the fourth and final pitfall, and I don't see one. So the fourth one is traditions. Traditions are some things that can help to derail our finances. So let's talk about some of the ways that could possibly happen. Let's think about Christmas, for example. How many people do you know who scramble after Christmas to pay bills because they went all out on Christmas gifts? There's nothing wrong with celebrating, right? But we have to think about not what the Jones are doing, not what the next door neighbors are doing, but how am I managing my money? And some of us, we think our kids are going to die if they don't get the latest, whatever. They won't die. They'll be okay. I'm okay. And I didn't get the latest, whatever. You're okay. And you possibly may not have gotten the latest, whatever. So have a conversation with your kids. I would say you don't have to tell them that you can't afford to buy fancy stuff because you don't want to put that message of lack in their heads, but have a constructive type of conversation. The conversation can be, we are starting a new tradition for Christmas in this family, and we're going to select names, and we're just going to give one gift to each other because we want to celebrate our family more than the holidays, right? Or whatever conversation you want to have. But what you're doing is you're setting up in their minds that it's not about the tradition, but it's more about celebrating as a family, right? You could set a dollar limit. You could say, we're selecting names and getting one gift and no more than $50, right? And maybe you give your kids, if they are of an age where they don't have that money, you take them shopping and you show them different things and at the same time, you're teaching them about how to comparison shop. You're also teaching them about money and how they can balance their money for what they're buying. And another thing you could do is parents could just make a list, have the kids make a list and say, give me a list of what it is you're expecting. Because we're just going to select one thing from your list. And that's what we're going to buy this year. No conversation about we can't afford to buy multiple, but it's just, we're going to have a list and we're selecting one thing from it. So the kids more than likely will think of this as a fun activity. They're not saying, Mom don't have the money, because the money doesn't come into the conversation. Money or the lack of it doesn't come into the conversation. It's more about we're creating this new tradition that doesn't require us to spend our retirement money on gifts. Okay. Another thing we can do is when we're doing gift giving, we could say we're going to set an overall dollar limit for gift giving. So we're saying, everybody, don't spend more than $50. If you want to spend $50 on one gift or $20 on two and 10 on one, or however you want to do it, but $50 is our limit. And this is what we're going to do as a family this year. You're not telling them you're doing $50 because you don't have the money, but you're giving them ideas about how to strategize about their money. And again, it's your money and it's your choice. But I'm sharing these things because it bothers me to see all the extravagant graduation shindigs, right? And many of those kids don't even have college funds, or they'll drop out of college due to lack of funds. So as parents, we have to decide, is spending thousands on a big graduation shindig to maybe compare with the neighbors, to compete with our family member, is it worth more than getting my child through college? That's one conversation, or however you want to think about it. But again, it's your money, it's your choice. I'm not telling you what to do. Okay. And listen, I didn't promise that this personal finance journey is going to be easy. It's not easy. what we have to do is decisions around our money doesn't have to be feast or famine decisions. It shouldn't be feast or famine decisions. You get your tax refund and you just go hog wild and just spend. And then 2 months later, when it's time for your child to go off to college or to start the new school year, you don't have money to pay for school supplies, or you don't have money to pay for shoes and clothes or whatever for your kids to go back to school. It shouldn't be a feast or famine, but we should be strategic with our money. And as I said at the beginning, a lot of this is out of habits. It's out of things that we've learned over time, but we have to consider, are these things serving us? It's your decision. It's your money, right? And I've shared a lot of stories before on this forum where I talk about hard decisions that I've had to make. But here's the thing. Today, because of the hard choices that I made, I have financial freedom. I still work my job because I want to, not because I have to. And I'm not boasting. I'm just telling you the decisions that I made around my money that were hard choices that leads me to this place. There was a time when I couldn't say this. There was a time when the decisions that I didn't have a choice about the decisions that I could make. But because of the hard decisions and the barriers and the guardrails that I put around my money and my decision, today I have the freedom to make choices about certain things. Does that mean I'm debt free? No, I still have a mortgage. I still have some student loans, but I still can make good choices, and I still have a freedom and peace of mind because of those hard choices. So, as I said at the beginning of the session, the why behind the decisions that impact our financial goals are deeper than this session can cover. And maybe the decisions you are making around your finances are because that's what you saw your parents doing. So now you have to decide, does what I'm doing serve me? And I want to reiterate the importance of proactive planning and strategies to minimize the influence of friends, habits, traditions, and societal expectations on our financial goals. If we can, again, those guardrails, set them up, then we can minimize the influence of those four things on our financial goals. We can minimize the impact of making decisions that doesn't serve us because it's the friends are doing it, and because it's the habit to do it, or it's because traditions in our families, or because society expect me to live a certain way or drive a certain car. And I'm not here to tell you it's easy. It's not easy to change ingrained emotional and psychological responses when we've been practicing them for a long time. It's not easy. And if nothing else, I really hope that this episode creates self-awareness and prompts us to put strategies in place to mitigate derailment of our financial goals. So now I want to check the comments to see if there are any additional comments in here. And I'm Beverly saying, my daughter going four trips 4 or 5 times a year because she can afford it. I have talked to her about saving, so hopefully she is. Yes, and the thing is, we can do these things because we can afford them. But what is it taking away from? What else is it taking from? Maybe I can afford to go on a trip, but does that mean my child can no longer go to private school or can no longer get the tutor that they need? So yes, I may be able to afford this thing. It's not a matter of affordability. It's a matter of my overall financial picture and how this thing impacts my overall financial picture. Yes, I can afford a trip, but if I were to lose my job, where would I be financially? Yes, I can afford a trip, but if I were to get sick, where would I be financially? So we can't think about one decision, or well, let me not say can't. We shouldn't think about one decision in isolation. We should think about our decisions and how they impact every part of our lives. Because if we don't do that, we will make a good decision here and it ends up being a bad decision for everything else. So thank you everyone who joined today. If you have comments, please put them in the here in the chat, or after YouTube has rendered the episode, you can go in there and put a comment. If there's something that you'd like me to cover, something that I said that you want clarification on, and of course, if you want to book me for a financial consultation, then you have my information in the YouTube description. So again, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, and I will see you later.